Hello, welcome. Hope y'all are having a good day today. Welcome to a very special event. I hear myself in the echo, by the way. We got to turn me down on the echo, yo. We're live right now. Can you guys? Okay. Okay, good. How y'all doing? We got to fix some technical difficulties there. Welcome to a very special event here on the Geekdom101 channel. I hope y'all are having a good day today. It is July 15th, 2023, and I'm very, very happy to be here, y'all. This is a historic event, once in a lifetime. I don't know if we're ever going to be able to pull this off again because it's pretty big. And when I was, when they reached out to me to do this, I was so excited, even though I'm a little bit nervous because this is sort of like the first time it's ever been done. So we got to work the kinks out of it. My name is Danny from Geekdom101. I hope y'all are having a good day. And if you remember, a few years ago, I did an interview with these guys, and I'm going to introduce them here in a minute. But they are the original composers of the Dragon Ball Z score, the same one that you heard on Toonami back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the same one that you heard on the VHS tapes and DVD tapes, or not tapes, DVDs, excuse me. Y'all grew up with this music for the dub, and I always hear people all the time ask for these guys to come back, and they always discuss how lovely the music was and how they still listen to it. I actually, more often than not, I hear tons of people talk about how they go to the gym listening to this music. It's helped them lose weight. It's helped them get strong. It's done all these different things. And I'm so happy to have them here right now with me. And they're about to perform live for all of you. Please welcome Mike Smith, Scott Morgan, Julius Dobosh. Please welcome SSJ. What's going on, y'all?
Much.
So I want to ask you a question before we actually start this lovely concert. Quick question for y'all. When y'all first got hired to do the DBZ English music, did Funimation or whomever provide like information on the series? Meaning, did they give you like tapes? Because I know that Chris Sabat told me many years ago in an interview I did with him that they gave him a bunch of tapes in like a paper bag and said, go home and watch this, which was his homework for Dragon Ball Z. Did they give y'all tapes or like pictures of the characters with bios? Like, what kind of information did you get before actually coming up, not just doing the show, but actually coming up with the music from scratch? Because you guys came up with this music literally from scratch.
I don't recall ever receiving any character sketches or anything like that specifically, but somehow we came in getting an idea of who we were going to see. I think that's an interesting question, though, as far as like when you consider Vegeta's theme. When we first saw him, he was just pretty much a bad guy, and so he didn't have the complicated layers to him yet. His theme was built on bad dudeness. Anyway, I did not ever get a bag full of VHS tapes from Funimation to research. But I will say this also. I think that, Scott, you took the initiative to...
Yeah, I used to go online and do searches. So, like, in particular, there was a lull between the Frieza saga. I was going to talk about that a little later, but between the Frieza saga and the Garlic Jr. saga, there was a lull where we didn't have any episodes to write. So I was online, like going to like planetnamek.com and printing out exactly what Danny was asking about with the, pictures of the characters, about what was going on. So, and if you know the track Demon Mist, in the dub it's called Blackwater Mist, but at the time when I was researching it, the dub wasn't out yet, and I didn't have an episode to look at, so I just knew it as the Demon Mist from the Japanese episode. So that's why that track is called Demon Mist.
Yeah.
Because it came from the Japanese, and I was just looking at what was available on the internet at the time. And if I had known they were going to call it Blackwater Mist, that track would probably have a different name.
I never knew that. I never knew that y'all actually that's crazy. So before we start, because we're going to start with the dragon theme today, I wanted to ask you, when y'all first started this whole thing, you basically came up with the music from scratch. What were your inspirations for the like coming up with the music? Like, did you think, okay, we have to make music that's going to appeal to like teenage young adults? We have to make music that's going to sort of give that action flair. Like, how did you first come up with these themes? Like, was it just y'all just playing your instruments at home and just, hey, that sounds good? I was really curious about the creative process in those early days.
We conducted a lot of market research. No, of course I kid. No, I know that all I did was what I really felt like I liked, the thing that I wanted to see there. So it really wasn't, I certainly was not considering the audience of 8 to 10-year-olds specifically. I was thinking about the show, what did the show represent in that? It happened to be, those guys, the 8 and 10-year-olds that were running home from school to watch the show, and falling in love with it.
For me, actually, process I joined later when some music was already existing and well liked, so I had to sort of get to know what had been written before and adapt to that, trying to also bring in my own style. And I didn't know anything about the show, anything about the characters, so there was no market research. Internet was not nearly uncomparable to what it is today, so it's not like you just go on Google and find out about everything. So lots of conversation. As surprising it might be, you actually sit down up with a person, and that's how you learned. I learned a lot about the show in the kitchen of the studio, where Evan and others and Ben would tell me about the characters and kind of explain what I'm writing for. Yep.
I started as an editor, and so I had a lot of time working with Mike's music and Bruce's music, and so of course I got to know the style that they had kind of started, and then like Julius, I put my own spin on things. So there's a bit of what I wanted to hear, of course, and because you're always going to put some of yourself into it, and I tend to be the guitar metal guy. I like evil stuff, so I gravitated toward evil themes. Although the first one I did was heroic, but and then of course there were show notes. So like we're listening to what Funimation was telling us to a certain degree, because their notes were very detailed, and even I think Evan told me that he knew that it was impossible to follow that stuff. He just wanted to make sure we understood the context of everything, I guess. And so sometimes it's a little bit schizophrenic, but yeah, if I had done it the way the notes said, it would have been even more schizophrenic. Anyway. So that's kind of a soup of things that go into your brain when coming up with the music.
I think we should get started. Y'all ready for the Dragon theme?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
We touched on it briefly. That Vegeta is a complicated character. This our Vegeta theme for this evening. Tribute to a bad guy we love. Thank you very much. Let me introduce Scott Morgan to you.
So, as I was talking about earlier, there was a lull between the Frieza saga and the Garlic Jr. saga, and we were writing themes and music just to prepare to have some new stuff. And this next one is a theme that Mike wrote, just as a generic heroic theme, I think. And I decided near the end of the Garlic Jr. saga, I think, to use it for a scene where Gohan is killing the Spice Boys. So it became a Gohan theme, and it is a rather erroneously named. I'm still not sure how it got named that, but it's called.
Our video guy Jesse pointed out to us that it never was used, right, for Gohan fighting Frieza. Is that correct?
Right, because it was written after the Frieza saga, so.
See?
Anyway, this is Gohan fights Frieza. I think it should be the Spice Boys, but
Should be the Spice Boys.
So, Danny, you guys can hear everything great?
You sound
All
great,
good?
yo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I wanted to ask you real quick. So, when y'all wrote the Vegeta theme, Scott, did you know that Vegeta was going to eventually turn good? Because that was not when Dragon Ball Z was airing here. Japan was already done. It was finished up in '95. Did you, when you Googled everything, did you know he was going to eventually turn good just by Googling it online?
when I was started working on the show, Vegeta was already turning good.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't really have to search that online, because I remember getting moved by the scene where he like died in front of Frieza, and he was showing a more tender side of himself. So I could sense that was happening, and I felt it was already in motion. So I don't know that I ever looked it up and learned that particular. I felt like I was just experiencing it along with everyone. And
And that's the kind of way, like, I experienced the show as I was writing it. I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and Vegeta already had a theme when I got there. So, it was like, Scott, here's the Vegeta theme. Use this when he's on there. And so I'm like, oh, okay. And so it was pretty simple for me. I didn't have a lot to think about there. And then I just was experiencing the show. I saw him become good, so.
Gohan fights Frieza is definitely like one of the most beloved ones, so I look forward to hearing it. I was telling everybody, I was like, it's even better live. Like, the music that y'all put together is better live, and I tell that to everyone, if you like a certain band or a singer, go see them live. It's a different experience, and hopefully now everybody can see, because you guys have done like cons and little shows here and there, so hopefully if SSJ comes to a town near you, go see him live, I'm telling everybody that so that they kind of feel the experience.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right.
Ready?
Let's go. I feel like that theme is most associated with the episode where Gohan kills the Cell Juniors. Like that's when I really remember that theme hitting, you know, and that's one of my favorite episodes. DBZ 185 is the one that that one's played in, but it was like a Gohan theme. So Mike, tell us about Sirens, man.
So, Danny, I know you were mentioning earlier the first time that you interviewed the three of us. You inspired us. I think it was part of the conversation that we had that you would that the three of us should get together and put some tunes together. And so, of course, that inspired what we're doing today. And so the first time that we met to actually put together what has become our show, we got together in Seattle. It's important to remember that we live in separate parts of the country. So that was our first meeting. Was we met up with Scott in Seattle, and I just happened to have been noodling around with this tune that we didn't have a name for it or anything, but we call it Sirens now. And so these guys jumped in and threw some beautiful stuff on top of it, and I hope you all enjoy it.
Yes. I heard a little bit of Pink Floyd in that too, a little bit. Hey, can you hear me okay?
Danny.
You can hear me?
You bet.
Okay, I was just making sure. But yeah, I heard a little bit of Pink Floyd in that. Was that an inspiration?
Floyd's always been an inspiration. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, I feel like it. So Trunks, man, I just want to tell a quick personal story. We're coming up on Trunks now, one of the most popular characters in the series. I remember the theme that you're about to play next. First time I ever heard it. This is a personal story. I had got pink eye. I was in 9th grade. I had pink eye, and I went to the doctor's office. And while I was in the waiting room, they had Dragon Ball Z on Toonami, and it was DBZ 120, which is Trunks and Frieza. And this theme is so beloved. I mean, I always hear everybody talk about like their favorite themes, and this one gets a lot of love too. So is there a backstory behind this theme? Like when it comes to heroic Trunks, like where did the idea for this come from? Just looking at the character? Or like I'm just curious about where y'all came up with this.
Well, so the next tune that we had on our list is actually Beyond Belief, right? Or Destruction. Is that are we okay. Now I think Scott probably wants to speak to how.
Repeat the question. Sorry.
No, my question was just a little bit of backstory on you coming up with Beyond Belief, like your creative process.
Okay. So I'm kind of a metalhead. So the musical part of this was fairly obvious for me. The story goes that we're gonna play this later, but there's a track called Heroic Trunks that was written for a promo by Mike Smith, and it's
right.
beautifully, and I think it fits Trunks to a T, and it works so great in that promo, and we use that theme in the dub, and I did an arrangement. I did slower, less kind of more epic, slow feeling versions of that theme to use in non-action moments, and that the episodes were rejected for not being edgy enough, and so we did hard enough, dark enough. So we did another version, or I should say Mike did another version that was more industrial and definitely dark. So if you know Trunks Powers Up, which is another awesome track, my track Future Sword on my own channel takes inspiration for that as well as the Heroic Trunks theme. But they still wanted it heavy, and so we're like, what the heck, and they told us, well, I'm gonna say more, but so they told us they wanted it heavy beyond belief. So I borrowed a 7-string guitar from my brother-in-law. I didn't own one at the time. This guitar has 7 strings. I actually have an extra low one so I can get real oomph, and then there's a clip of my brother-in-law at the time doing an inhale scream into a distortion pedal. So I was just going for all the heck. There's odd meter in the original track, and there's like down-tuned metal stuff, dissonant synths, and so it's
lots of half-step transition.
Yeah, it's
evilness.
very in the metal tradition. So and I thought it was. I actually, yeah. Anyway, it's entertaining to watch it with the scene.
All right, let's get to it then. I'm excited.
Belief. That's a studio name anyway.
Belief.
Scott Morgan.
Bro, that was phenomenal, man. That was so powerful. I don't even know what to say. So I wanted to ask y'all a quick question before we move on to the next theme. When you're composing, can you tell us the differences between composing music for a movie or a TV show as opposed to creating an album? Obviously, you have to do stuff like lay motifs and things like that. But I was just curious from your perspective as musicians, do you approach the project? I mean, obviously you approach the project differently, but what kind of differences are there between coming up with your own album or composing music for a TV show / movie?
I'll chime on this one. Well, there's a ton of differences, but let me just start by saying, when you're composing for a film and when you're writing music for an album, the biggest difference is, and I'm also talking about this because our audience is from University of Silicon Valley, and some of them are actually learning about this, how to get into the industry, is when you're writing an album, you're really creating a product. When you're composing for a film, you're providing a service, and that's mostly for the director, for the production. And because of that, you have full control when you're creating an album. It's only your decisions, but it's also your risk. Because if the album sells great, if the album doesn't, it's not so great, if people don't like it, right? So you have full creative freedom, but there's a price. With a director, you have to accept, a ton of changes and lots of requests. It's still a very creative process, but the freedom is a little bit different type of freedom because you're providing a service. So that's the biggest, and that affects everything. Just another thing I would say, just like kind of a nutshell, because it's a huge topic, of course, but for a TV show, you're thinking about what's happening in that episode, and you're not thinking too much ahead. Often you don't even know where things are gonna go. And also if you were sort of too much biased by knowing where things are gonna go, then you might actually compose it differently, unwillingly sort of foreshadow whatever that's gonna happen. Sometimes it's good to know more about the characters before you write, the theme just based on what's happening with the character, not just backgrounds, but something about their future. But that's totally different in a movie because you see the entire story for the movie. So the arc, the climax points are not, once in 21 minutes, but once in 90 or 120 minutes. So it's structure, it's a very different process. Character themes are everywhere, and like matching the mood and coming up with interesting orchestrations. That's the common element.
Fantastic. So I do want to give a shout out to Silicon Valley University. I do want to personally thank them for hosting this and putting this together because they a lot of hardworking people over there. Yeah. Thank you.
Just
guys.
like Jesse, our sorry, I interrupted. Can we thank Jesse, our guy who's doing video for us too? All the animations behind us.
That guy's mug.
One more plug here. Actually, the entire event is run by students. So everything that you're seeing, that you're hearing, is done by students, brought to you by students.
Yeah, I'm really thankful for that. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. By the way, in the chat right now, people are saying keep music AI free. And that's interesting. It's interesting to say that because Julius, man, you and I talked about this a little bit last night. Can you tell us about the project you're working on, this company? Because I don't even think they knew about it. And now there you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a relatively new project. I started an organization which I'm hoping to turn into a nonprofit as big as it gets kind of organization and truly keep it nonprofit in the future. It's really about raising awareness about the dangers of AI, and I'm not trying to paint any doomsday picture here and reference Terminator all the time, but when it comes to art, when it comes to emotions, when it comes to communicating everything that makes us human, not replacing it with ChatGPT and the kind of things where, sure, it's convenient, it does the work for you, but the more we type, the more we're online, the more we're even losing the ability to speak and write in English. especially express ourselves nicely and have human connections. And it's a great benefit for many companies to give you the convenience, but what this is taking away is also your freedom of choice as a human. So the organization is all about raising awareness, and we're not going to be able to conquer this, and we're not going to stop the process, but we will grab the signs and we will go to the places where we can kind of get people on board and stand up for their own freedom.
Yes. All right. So that's ai-free.org. I have it in the description of the stream right now. It's ai-free.org. So, Mr. Morgan, tell us about Calm, more trunk stuff. I think that was a trunks theme, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, for Calm, I don't actually remember. I feel like it was. I picture Goku, Krillin, and like Gohan sitting on a beach. I don't actually remember what the first scene I did it for was, but it was. I should switch mics. I'm sorry, the camera people. Yeah, it was just something I felt like we needed another. Like, there's another track that we called "Home Sweet Home." That's by Mike. That's beautiful. But I felt like
Beautiful.
it is. So I guess I felt like we needed another thing for this scene. Whatever scene this was, maybe some fan can figure out what the first time it was used is. I don't remember. Oh, I need to play it. Well, I just play. It's very short. We originally actually included it in the set as a kind of joke to follow Beyond Belief because it's like so opposite. But I don't think like at KamehaCon they had just had a session where they were talking about it. So it got cheers, and I was like, what? And anyway, so laugh with me a little bit as I play, and also enjoy the peaceful vibes. So here we go. This is Calm.
Cool. For some reason, I thought it was longer, but that does kind of give you that peaceful vibe. The next track that I have is just called Trunks. So let's get to it. Dude, I love that theme. I remember the first time I ever heard that theme was on a promo that Funimation put out for the Trunks VHS tape. So that was the first time I ever heard that one.
That's what it was composed for specifically, was for that promo. Yeah.
When the screen was flashing and said Trunks, I vividly remember this. I'm sure if somebody goes to YouTube and types like Trunks VHS promo, they'll probably find it because everything's on there. So I want to switch over to Julius. Space Room. You composed this and it's only 5 chords?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, it's 5 chords. You know, it's Space Room was actually the first track that I composed for DBZ, and it's sort of funny that it's a total coincidence, but this is just how the mysterious ways work. That I'm into space stuff, and in my music that I do as albums, as we talked about earlier, not film stuff. That's a very common theme. So it's sort of an interesting thing that the first track that I wrote was called Space Room. And it is 5 chords, really. The goal was to create awe and wonder and hope. So kind of something positive but beautiful. And it really took 5 chords. But let me tell you something interesting about this. There's another part of this story. After I wrote Space Room, and it aired on Cartoon Network, and it's like basically done. 2 months later, I realized that the last piece that I wrote, I'm from Europe, from Central Europe originally, and the last piece that I wrote before I left Europe was actually using the same chords. So this is the kind of situation when you're plagiarizing yourself, but you're not aware of it. But probably it was still somewhere in the back of the back of my mind, and they're quite similar. But yeah, so Space Room is 5 chords. Actually, let me show you. So yeah, this is basically just 1 chord, 2nd chord, 3rd. By the way, all major chords, but then here, a minor chord makes it beautiful. So the track goes like this. Thank you.
Hear me? Oh, yes, you can. Okay. Sorry. It gave me a little thing on the screen. Ignore it. No, that music actually fits really well for the recent Broly movie. There was a scene in the movie where Broly's talking about his childhood, and that theme is perfect for that. I believe that was played in the Gohan Z Sword scene in DBZ. So the next theme that y'all are gonna play has been requested all night from people. I've seen it in the chat room, and that is the Cell theme. It's really like the centerpiece of the Cell saga in many ways when we get to the appearance of Cell. And one thing I like about this theme is it slowly changes as Cell sort of, absorbs people and goes from first form, second form, perfect. I wanted to hear y'all's if there's any history behind that track.
So I came up with the theme with the idea that Cell's gonna be a little gangster. He's sort of pimping, and I wanted a theme that would let him show off his strut, you know. And I agree, it was perfect little, few notes together that we could have it transform along with Cell. So thank you for noticing that.
But it was an entirely new theme. I don't think we actually did any transformations of musical motifs from the various forms of Cell, right? Like, it was just straight up different themes for.
That's what I'm saying. You changed it up.
Yeah, it had it evolve as it went. Yes.
Yeah, there were different styles that were asked of us for each form of Cell, and we were kind of actually following some of what Funimation said. I don't know if Perfect Cell was exactly what they asked, but it's what they needed.
It's what they needed. So,
well, I'll say this. Okay, go ahead.
Scott the other day was telling me that he was saying something about the Cell theme being one of the most covered, most
Remixed.
Most remixed, and this particular version of it is really what Scott did with the Cell theme. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I try to take inspiration from what you did in your. There's a couple of different little known thing is that a lot of people play the Perfect Cell theme on like YouTube or whatever, and that's the one that comes up by default is actually a remix, which is kind of funny. There's so many remixes, but so I tried to bring in the things from like Perfect Cell runs and I can't remember what the other one was called, but I wanted to bring back the motifs that that Mike had put into the original accompaniment for it. And I also wanted to put my own twist on it. Of course, I'm a metalhead, so there might be a little bit of that. But it starts with a piano introduction, and then we do a slight shuffle. It wasn't meant to have a gap, but so it's not over when the piano introduction is done.
So hold your applause.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. I wanted to ask one last thing before we started. How do you feel about that? It's very beloved, very covered. As a musician, is it like a humbling thing, or do you kind of how do you view the fact that so many people have taken this theme and just ran with it?
So it feeds my ego, is what it does.
I love it. Hey, look, Cell's all about ego, so that's perfectly fitting.
Right?
Here we go. The Cell theme is next.
Scott's remix.
Hell yeah. I mean, dude, it's crazy because I love how it gets all like psychotic near the end. Because I vividly remember the Super Perfect Cell appearance and that whole, when he came back from the dead, so to speak. And that's the one scene that I remember oh, that, I mean, you hear that theme over and over again when you watch the whole arc. But that's the one that really sticks out in my mind. It's funny because I remember I had, me personally, I had those episodes in Japanese before they aired on television, but I was thinking to myself, I wonder what the kids who have never seen this before are thinking. And no, like I was thinking to myself, like there's so many people who have never seen this before. What are they thinking? And that's always been a fun thought. So Gohan's power up is next. What can you tell us about this theme? Because we got a lot of Gohan fans watching this right now.
All right. Well, so Gohan is very different character than the rest of them because first of all, he's half human, half not. So there's a human quality there, but also he's usually trying to stay out of fights if not really necessary. So he's kind of like a nice guy, but also when he's protecting someone, he's not so nice, right? So when he goes into battle. So musically, the idea was to bring in some Earth into this, right? To bring in the planet Earth into this, and we have an intro for Gohans that I had ended up actually using Mike's original Earth music, Earth theme for this, and that's just in the intro of Gohan. But then Gohan goes into a really kind of like a very sweet, nice melody, but then it becomes something that's very sort of relentless, like repetitive and just very driven, going forward when when it needs to do this. And most of the track is about sort of combining a really nice, very hummable melody, but in an arrangement that's very driven and very motivated. So that's going on for me.
I always have been a fan in music of like subversions where you'll hear something super peaceful and then bam, you get hit with the heart. I've always been a fan of that. And I feel like when you guys were composing this, even though like Kikuchi's score for the Japanese version was more like a martial arts themed kind of old school kung fu movie theme, your theme was more like an action show type of stuff, y'all's music. But what I was saying was that whole like subversion of Earth theme and then fighting or whatever, that to me is like even though it's not the old school kung fu, it still is very much in line with what Dragon Ball was and what Dragon Ball is, because Dragon Ball is very much like peace, barbecues, having a good time, sort of like the fast movies. We're getting together, we're with family, we're eating, and then all of a sudden there's problems. So I love that y'all picked up on that as you were composing the music, because this show is kind of funny like that. All right, I'm excited to hear it live, because let's go. Let's do it.
All right, go on.
So a lot of people are getting emotional in the chat room, man. Everybody's quoting that one line from Goten. No, it's my brother. That with the Majin Buu saga. That's the people. I like how people associate specific scenes to the music, but whatever kind of hit them in the feels. I wanted to ask Julius, when you first joined the production team, the composing team, what was that experience like? Meaning, did they kind of bring you up to speed? Did you have to listen to their music to kind of match up with it? The reason why I asked, because when Kikuchi did the Boo arc, he changed a lot of the old Z themes and made a bunch of new ones. So, you were brought in, experienced, obviously. I wanted to just ask you what that experience was like when you were first brought in and how you were able to meld your style sort of to, the Dragon Ball Z style.
Yeah, when I first started, I didn't really realize what I was working on in terms of the impact and the popularity of the show. I was just telling this story last night on a panel at MagWest that I actually started writing the music just based on getting to know some of the characters, but really not seeing the whole universe at all, not having a clue about how these characters connect. And I was brand new to even the country, actually, and went to Target or Walmart somewhere and started seeing the characters that I was writing for during the day on mugs and hats and being sold at the store. So that's when it hit me, like, it must be pretty big if it's all over the place. So it was an interesting experience because my background was more in orchestral and electronic music composition. And when I started to get to know the tracks that had been written by Mike and Scott for the show at that point, it was more rock. There had lots of different elements, but it was most often rock. And being from Europe, that wasn't really my sort of experience and my strongest thing. So it was an interesting challenge kind of to, on one hand, maybe bring in some of my aesthetic, right? Also try to sneak in a little bit more electronic elements because I felt that some characters could really benefit from that. Bring in my orchestra background, which again, for different situations like the Great Saiyaman and others, that was a good fit, I think. But then adapt to their writing, which was more rock-based, and I didn't have much experience in rock. So, it's a mash of so many different things that we did. But in that sense, it was a little bit challenging beginning. But I guess it worked out well.
Yeah, I would say so. It's funny because I was talking to a guy years ago about you guys, and I told him, I was like, look up Forgotten Future. And he Googled you, and he found you, and he starts listening to your music, and he's like, I can kind of see it. Because I guess he didn't know that you had like a whole separate persona or whatever, or not, a stage name or whatever. So, so if you're in the chat, look up Forgotten Future. There's a lot of music. Julius has a lot of music out there that never even made DBZ. That's his own thing. So Hyper Boo is next on the set list. It's not metal, but tell us about it before we start.
Yeah, it's not metal per se. It's probably as close as I have gotten to writing aggressive music without using horn sections and dissonances, but rather just sheer power of the guitar. So, for Boo, first of all, we're dealing with a character who is cute on the outside and smiling and pink and likes candy and makes a lot of, funny voices, high-pitched voices, and he's really cute. Who turns out to be one of the most evil character in the whole show, in the whole universe, if not the most evil. Definitely one that sticks around for the longest and changes into many forms. So this kind of duality, again, Mike started writing for Boo. We actually wrote different themes parallel. This is one of those situations when we had a little bit of time, which is a luxury with DBs it was luxury, and in typical in TV composition. That's a luxury. With a little bit of a time to do parallel things and not only complete each other's work as we're doing new stuff for an episodes. So the chimey melodies are coming from his theme, and so it's almost like we borrowed from each other's themes to write the new iterations and versions. And then I ended up writing the many of the transformations that Booth goes through, a new theme for that, and try to reflect the new addition that comes with the transformation in that new version of the music. So this is more the fighting music. It's more the super boo kind of fighting music, and we call it hyper boo because I guess that didn't fully exist. So it's got a little bit of a medley, I guess, of different parts. So yeah.
No, it's cool because it's the duality. It's, Majin Buu literally becomes two versions of himself, and they fight themselves, and then they have a new It's funny because the first episode I ever saw of the Majin Buu saga when I was really little was the episode where Fat Buu gets angry and the steam comes out of his head and makes the evil Buu, and then off we go. So I'm excited to hear it, especially live. Once again, I want to thank Silicon Valley University for all the work they did. It means a lot to me and everybody in the chat. And I want everybody in the chat to remember that SVU. So let's hear it. Let's hear Hyper Boo. You know, it's funny because y'all make it look easy. It's just y'all make it look easy, but this is literally years and years and years of practice. Like, people gotta understand, yo, like, you first start playing music, you learn a couple chords, then you graduate to learning songs, then you graduate to making songs, which is where you guys are at. How many, this is a question for all three of you guys, how many years did it take before you got to this point of you know, music?
I'm 51 years old.
That's not what I meant. I meant years playing music.
I mean, yeah, you never stop learning. I mean, if you stop learning, you stagnate and your music gets old, and you need to keep learning. Like, I've been working on jazz. You can't tell that from what I'm playing now, but you never stop. I mean, another answer might be how long it was before we started writing for Dragon Ball.
Let me ask you this. When is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. I'm not sure what that had to do with it. I just thought some wisdom like that might be helpful.
Right. No, I mean, it's just crazy because it's not, again, y'all make it look easy, but it's not. I mean, obviously the more you practice, the better you get. So I wanted to ask you about this Berserk project. You know, besides DBZ, I want to know about what you have going on with the Berserk thing.
Disturbing sounds, right? And that's on purpose because that's part of the disturbing universe and the character in some sense. And you know, you asked the question, like what you said, that we make it look easy and how much time it takes. And I switched to composition from just playing piano when I was quite young. And you know, you go through the stuff that others are doing, and you can discover, you want to try yourself in. But once in a while, you come across a project where it doesn't matter how many years you have, and you have decades of experience, but it really challenges you. Now, Berserk was one of those for me. This character it's the most complex character I've ever dealt with. There's a lot of good intentions in him. You don't want to mess with him. He's dark. He cuts off people's head and does even worse things. So and also he's not quite sane. So expressing that in music, that there's this, you know, ridiculous size of weapon that he carries, and so the epicness of the character, putting in the good in the character because you're rooting for the character, of course, but then he's not quite sane in many ways. Like combining all this, that was the biggest challenge with Berserk.
All right, Guts theme. Let's do it. Bro, that rocks. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we have one more surprise for you guys. That last Guts theme was a surprise. I don't think anybody's expecting that one, but we have one more surprise coming up here. This is like the grand finale, and I think some people in the chat were able to predict what was going to happen next, or what you guys are playing next, but what you're playing is not exactly, how do I even, I'm trying to like tell them without telling them. It is familiar, but it's not. How would you guys describe this next and final track?
I'd say it's gonna scratch that itch.
Okay, it's gonna scratch that itch. There you go. So again, if you're a fan of the old school DBZ original dub theme, you're really gonna appreciate this themes. Excuse me. You're really gonna appreciate this next track because it's familiar yet new, and I think it's an exclusive, right? Is this available at all anywhere?
Not right now. We're recording this concert, so this might actually be available maybe one day. I can't make promises, we'll have to discuss it, but yeah, this track is, we have been playing this only at shows. Everyone recognizes what it is, but we changed it up a little bit to make it sort of more of a real performable thing. But if you listen carefully, if anyone thinks that, oh, the melody is not going exactly like in the show, it actually is, but you have to listen to sometimes behind the lead, behind the guitar, it's all hidden in there, it's all there.
Yes, it's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said it's in there.
It's
It's
there.
an old
so-
pasta sauce commercial.
Well, yes. Well, let's get to it then, folks. I don't know. I got goosebumps right now because this is an exclusive. So I want to thank you guys, SSJ, for coming on, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit afterward, just a little bit. And I want to thank SVU again. So let's go ahead and hit them with the grand finale. I don't even know what to say. So I do want to ask you about that song though. So it's obviously it's Super Saiyan 3. Y'all went further beyond in the track. So what was the idea behind, so I guess remixing it? What would you even call that? Remaking it? You tell me.
Yeah, you see, we got together when we decided we're gonna start SSJ, and honestly, I didn't know. Scott told me that this was the fan favorite. It's like, what, really? Like this track? I didn't know. I wasn't following it at that time, and and we started playing around with it, and we thought that the original worked great in the show, but to have an introduction, to have an outro, we started just playing around, and actually this, like this little motif came around, and honestly, we're in the spirit of SSJ 3, but we started improvising on top of each other's parts, and we ended up coming with this parallel melody, and then Mike added the kind of the parallel part with a different instrument, and we knew that we had to get to the point where the drums kick in and we get to the main theme, and we actually made one change, and I'm sure that you noticed, instead of we have, but then this is what I was talking about. You can hear both. You just have to listen to the layers and explore it a little bit. And yeah, it just turned into a track that we really enjoyed playing. And I think I can speak for all of us that here that we enjoy writing for film. We enjoy writing for everything, but we really have to enjoy when you're playing music and not just recite yourself, all the time. But you really have to improvise, and so you can hear a lot of improvisation today over the familiar tunes. And so this kind of came out of the original SSJ and plus improvisation, and we called it SSJ 9.
I didn't want to spoil the title, but yeah, SSJ 9, yeah, which is funny because there's a guy on YouTube with that name, so he's probably gonna think you wrote it for him, but hopefully not. No, I love it. It's just phenomenal. So before we get out of here, what's next for SSJ, man? What do y'all have planned down the pipeline? I'm very curious. I think everybody here wants to know. And how can people find out what's coming up for you guys besides just here?
Oh no! Is my mic on? I'm gonna have to take some heat, so I'm the one to speak. We're trying to play Youmacon, but
We were very excited to be playing at Youmacon this year in Detroit.
And I keep getting these vacation offers from my company that I work for. I shouldn't announce that.
Nope. Whoops.
Anyway, I've got a trip pre-planned, and so I couldn't make it to Youmacon, but we're definitely planning to play more shows out, and yeah, we just need to have some lead time, and so that we can make sure the schedule's clear. So yeah, sorry about that's all on me.
Next show is TBD, but we'll be sure to let you know and beg you to put out a little shout out when we do it again.
For sure. People in the chat are asking for SSJ 9 to be released officially. They're asking for it in the chat. So is that coming, or we don't know?
We should discuss it for sure.
We should do.
Why not?
We've been planning to do recordings for a long time.
And we really appreciate it. I mean, today, to be honest with you, it's an honor to be asked to release a track as opposed to 5 billion people pushing their tracks on you. So, we're gonna take it to a serious discussion.
Mark Cooper is a good friend of ours, known as Player One, and he is hounding me all the time that it's about damn time that we go ahead and put a released album sort of thing out. So, Mark, if you're listening, it's coming, man.
We love you, man.
We love you, man.
You too. I'm sorry.
Well, we all love you guys, and I really appreciate you coming on and choosing me to host this. And I do thank Silicon Valley University for all the production they did on this. It was a great time. I'm still just the show's we're coming to a close now, and I've still got butterflies because it was such a good time, man. I really want to thank you guys, Scott, Mike, Julius, as always, and I do speak for the fandom that your work is appreciated. Like, it really is. It's appreciated, and I've tried my best to get the word out there that you guys were the original composers, so that people know, like, this is where it came from. It's from their minds, obviously inspired by Dragon Ball Z, the mind of Toriyama and people at Toei. But it's still, even though it's for the English side of things, it's still a Dragon Ball Z theme. It's still, the score is still Dragon Ball Z, and it's very much in the spirit of it. So you are appreciated, and you know that because people say you all the time. So, but I want to tell you, so it's just another more icing on that giant cake.
Yeah.
Appreciate your support. Thank you for having us on your channel, and of course we went to you because we wouldn't go anywhere than the top source on anything Dragon Ball Z. So
That's right.
it's
Yeah.
a default choice.
We really need to give a lot of thanks to Geekdom, because I remember it was him who contacted me like years ago to do an interview on his channel, and I think I snubbed you at first because I did. And then finally we did the interview in Texas, and that was awesome. And then he asked us to come to KamiHaCon, and that was awesome.
But
And,
SSG would not exist
so he's done.
without that interview.
Geekdom has done a lot for us.
Yeah. We
and,
wouldn't be here without him.
That's for sure.
I don't even know what to say. I don't think these things through like that. Thanks, though. Thank you. And thanks, everybody, for checking out the show. And I look forward to seeing you guys again in the near future. And look forward to hearing all that music once again, too. Especially since there's remixes now, and it's not gone. It's not gone. So I think good music can live forever. And that's what I think. So thank you again. Thanks, SVU. I appreciate it. Take care. And God bless.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.